folks, I'm Tom Vasel, and welcome to Look Back, where I take a look at reviews that I've done in years gone by. Today we'll be taking a look at reviews from 1 and 5 years ago this week. So let's go back last year. Last year I took a look at Apocalypse Zoo of Carson City. Gave this one here a 1 because it's really not much of a game. You walk around and turn over cards and hope there's not zombies. It has some artwork, I guess it's from some sort of comic book, but yeah, not worth your time at all. Facets of Fortune. This is an interesting game. I thought it looked cool. Collect some gems, but you could literally steal people's gems, and the whole stock market here is just ruined by take that cards, so I can't really recommend it. Fruity di Mare, Vini Vidi Vici, or whatever how you pronounce this one. This is a spaghetti game with stuff inside. I thought, oh, that's going to be a pretty neat game, but it's just sending different seafoods around in spaghetti, attacking each other, which is literally just roll and see what happens, and there's really no strategy in it at all. Candygrams. This is a little game in which you're turning over different color letters. It looks really cool, a little word game, but there's not much there, unfortunately. You're kind of stuck with the letters you get. I like word games if they feel clever and interesting, and this one doesn't. Chimere. This is a game in which you turn over a bunch of tiles and you speed build different monsters, which sounds really cool, but it's too random, really. Was there any good games from a year ago? Well, MS Battery. This is a deduction game where you're trying to figure out who the murderer is on a 3D ship. The 3D ship is really cool, but actually becomes a hindrance more than a help, and it's an okay deduction game. But let's start with some good games. First of all, we have Marvel Legendary Champions. I like the Champions team from Marvel Legendary. This wasn't an amazing expansion, but it was a good solid one, adding more characters and things. Then we had Pocket Ops. This is like a small little almost tic-tac-toe style game. That Melody and we reviewed this one, really enjoyed this. A little tiny game back and forth, a fun filler. Costel, I really like the theming of this game, the building the human towers, and this one felt different. You're actually literally building these kind of different folks standing on each other's shoulders and all, and it has a different feel than most other games, and so I was glad to see something like this. Phewville, this was a game about dragons coming and burning your buildings down. It had this fun, build the buildings and try to get protection before the dragons show up and things, rolling dice and then using whatever die you roll to take actions. Simple game, but there was more to it than I thought, and really nice production values. Welcome to Centreville. This one was surprising. The production values in this one were not that fantastic. It's just a simple little game about building this town and putting different things into different districts of the town, trying to control areas and building different neighborhoods. It's very fun. I was very surprised by how much I enjoyed this one. So that's what I did a year ago. 5 years ago, I took a look at Shift, the single card LCG, where basically is like the whole thing was like, hey, you have a single card, everything's on that card. Nah, well, that's a gimmick, and I just didn't find it that interesting of a game. Galapagos, this was a kind of a rolling dice and get resources type game. Think Settlers of Catan, but really dumbed down and not really that fun. It could have been a good game, but it was okay. My kids and I, 5 years ago, reviewed both Nada and Flash. These are little dice games. Really, they're just basically speed games. Roll this, try to grab dice or what have you. Very similar from Blue Orange Games. This was one, they did start making me think, wow, Blue Orange is starting to make some pretty cool little games here, and they've only gone up since then. Spec, which has triple X's in it, which makes it sound like a worse game than it is, but it's kind of just a dice game where you're filling in spots, and there's some interesting ideas in this one. Battle for Souls, this is good versus evil. Not a huge fan of the theme of like being evil, because this is more of a realistic thing to me than just pure fantasy, but it has some nice ideas as asymmetrical two-player game. Coconuts. This game has really taken off and done well since it came out. This dexterity game where you're using this to launch stuff into the middle. They even made a duel game of this later. It's still silly fun, especially for kids. Then, me and Sam took a look at Age of Empires, or Empire's Age of Discovery, which it's now called, from Eagle Griffin Games. Fantastic worker placement game. Still one of the best games ever made. And Dice Masters. 5 years ago, I reviewed Dice Masters. It's weird to think that it's 5 years old now. Still really enjoy and love this game. Fantastic. So those are the reviews that I did a year and 5 years ago. I'm Tom Vasel. This has been Look Back on the Dice Tower. We'll see you next time.